so we're beginning now a three-part series entitled Moshiach Mystery. And so before we begin tonight's shiur, I just want to give a short overview of what this series is going to be about. So in general, there's going to be three parts. As I mentioned, so the first part is going to be about preparations and prerequisites for Moshiach, leading to the process of the Geula, and then the gates, the end time, the end of Galus. So, Be'ezus Hashem, what we're going to see over here is, in general, the process of how Galus leads us to Geula. So, just in this first section over here about preparation for Mashiach. So tonight we're going to learn about eliminating the cause of Galus. Next week, Be'ezus Hashem, about tshuva before Mashiach. What's the shiur? How much tshuva you need to do? Then we'll learn about the Chai Varzakai, which is basically about the darkness before the light. And then we'll move on to the process of the Geula itself, things that involve the actual process of Mashiach, about Eliyahu Hanavi's arrival, Milchemes Gog u'Magog, and Moshiach ben Yosef, and then the last section will be about the gates, both about the idea of predicting the gates, when Mashiach is going to come, when is the gates, the idea on our time or his, which is about the Ita Achishena, right? The concept there's different times for Mashiach in its time, hasten it, and then finally where we are holding, things the Rebbe said about where we're holding now as far as that's concerned. So moving to today's discussion, which is about eliminating the cause of Galus. So, I believe that it's pretty much accepted nowadays in all fields, whether it's in the field of education or medicine, that if you want to fix any problem, you have to go to the root of the problem. To fix the cause of the problem. When you fix the cause of the problem, then automatically all of the results go away. So, when we talk about eliminating the cause of Galus, so what are we talking about? What is the cause of Galus? What do we need to do? What do we need to eliminate in order that Galus should go away and the Geula should come? So, really what tonight's shiur is about, as we'll see, is as most of you are familiar with, is the concept of Avos Yisrael and Achdus Yisrael, as you see on your handout. So we're going to go back to the sources, from the Gemara. We're going to go through the classic commentaries, the classic Mefarshim, down through the Shiurim of our Rabbeim, from the Alter Rebbe and the Rebbe. And I think we'll have a clear picture of, first of all, how to do it, and everything that's connected with it. Okay, so we'll start with the Gemara. So the Gemara talks about what is the cause of Galus. So it says Mikdash Rishon, going back to the first Beis HaMikdash. Mipnei ma chorev, why was the first Beis HaMikdash destroyed? So the Gemara says it's Mipnei Gimel Dvarim shehayu bo, it was because of three things: Avodah Zarah, v'gidei aroyos, v'shfichas damim, idolatry, immorality, and bloodshed. In other words, the three averas, the three sins that we know are the most severe, that a person has to give up their life not to transgress. What about the second Beis HaMikdash? Aval Mikdash Sheni, shayu oiskin b'toiro v'mitzvahs u'gmilas chasadim ne'ma chorev. The second Beis HaMikdash, the Jewish people were involved in learning Torah, mitzvahs, doing good deeds. Why was it destroyed? It says the Gemara, b'bnei shehoisa bo sinas chinam, because there was baseless hatred. We'll talk about exactly what that means. And the Gemara concludes that Lilamedcha, this teaches us Shkula sinas chinam keneged shalish aveiros avodah zarah gidei aroyos u'shfichas damim. That it comes out, this teaches us that sinas chinam, baseless hatred, this is equivalent to the three terrible sins of avodah zarah, idolatry, immorality, and bloodshed. In other words, the first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because of those three averos. And the second Beis HaMikdash was destroyed just because of sinas chinam, right? Just because of baseless hatred. So it comes out, it's just as bad. So what we really have to understand over here is, What's so terrible about Sinas Chinam? We understand the three Averas, Avodah Zorah, Gili Aroyas, Shvichas Damim. That's understood, but what's so terrible about Sinas Chinam that's a reason to destroy the Beis HaMikdash, and it's equivalent to all the other three Averas? So I think a clue is in the continuation of the Gemara, on that same Amud, later on that same page. So the Gemara says like this. The Gemara discusses an interesting fact. Before the Jews, before they went into the first Galus, before they went into Galus Bavel, so Yirmiyahu told them how long Galus was going to be. Told them that 70 years you'll be in Galus Bavel, you'll be in exile in Babylonia, and then after that, it's over, you're coming back. Our Galus, after the destruction of the second Beis HaMikdash, we were never told when Galus is going to end. That's what we'll get to later about predicting the end time, but we never told. So the Gemara discusses why is that. So the Gemara says like this: Rabbi Yochanan v'Rabbi Elazar the Amri Tarvayu. Both Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar said the following: Rishonim, the first ones, referring to the Jews in the time of the first Beis Hamikdash, shenizgala avoinam nizgala kitzam. It says their sins were opened, their sins were revealed. And if you look in Rashi says it means that they were openly wicked. So therefore, Nizgala Kitzam says their end time was also open, it was also revealed. They were let known that after 7 years they're coming back. Achroinim, however, the later ones, meaning the second Beis HaMikdash, Shaloi Nizgala Avoinam, says their sin was not revealed. Rashi, it says they were Rashoyim Baseiser, they were wicked, literally like in private. We'll see what that means. Therefore, Loi Nizgala Kitzam, therefore the end time wasn't revealed. So we have to understand what does the Gemara mean exactly? What does it mean they were Rishoyim Baseiser? They were wicked in private, in hiding. What does that mean exactly? So if we go to the Maharsha, look in the Maharsha connects this Gemara with the Gemara earlier on top of the Amud. It says like this: what does it mean? What does it mean that their sin wasn't revealed? It's like the Gemara said before, it means that they had baseless hatred in their heart. However, on the outside, they made it seem as if they were friends. And he says the Gemara actually elaborates on this concept, like the Gemara says, they would eat and drink with each other. It says, and then they would stab each other with the swords of their tongue. In other words, on the outside they pretended as if they loved each other, but inside they had feelings of dislike for each other. Now, what's so terrible about that? Why is that so terrible? Why does the Gemara say because of that? That Hashem didn't tell us when the end of Galus is. It says like this: this sin is worse than an open sin. And he brings a parallel. Says that the punishment of a thief who steals when no one's looking is worse than an open robber. It's worse. What's worse? Says this one, in other words, a ganev. It's a ganev is someone that a gazlan, right? An open robber. So he treats people and Hashem the same. Treats them the same. In other words, he's not afraid of either, which is not a good thing. But at least he doesn't show that he's more afraid of humans than Hashem. However, this one not. In other words, a ganev is a thief who steals privately. So on the out, he doesn't show his intentions to people. So he's worse. That's what the Maharsha says. So basically, what the Maharsha is saying over here is that in a certain sense, when you're wicked only in the inside, you don't show it to other people, you see that it's worse. Now, if we think about this for a second, so I think we still have a couple of questions. Okay, so we can understand this concept, right? So Maharsha is explaining that Sinas Chinam is a terrible thing because it's something that it's just in the inside. You're pretending on the outside that you don't have it, but in the inside your heart, so you hate other people. Okay, I understand it's not a good thing. But because of that, it's so terrible. It's like Avodah Zarah, it's like Gili Aroya is so terrible. Like, doesn't seem to be so terrible. That's one question that I have. Another question is, that I think it still needs explanation, is why is the punishment for that, since they sinned in private, just in their hearts, therefore the Gemara says, Loin is Gala Kitzam. Therefore, Hashem didn't reveal the end of Galus. Seems like what we call it's like a Gzeira Shava. It's like two things, sort of like Mida Keneged Mida, because the person is not sinning, he's openly, so Hashem is not openly revealing the end of Galus. What's the connection between the two things? So we're going to go now to what the Alter Rebbe says in Likutei Torah, and the Alter Rebbe is going to answer all of these questions. So the Alter Rebbe he starts with another question, an even bigger question. So the Gemara seems to be talking about why was it in the times of the second Beis HaMikdash, why weren't we told when the end of Galus is? But I think there's a bigger question. It seems that Sinas Chinam, not only is it equal to whatever Averis they did during the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, it seems that it was even worse. In the first Beis HaMikdash, they were in Galus for how many years? For 70 years, that was it. Only 70 years. Unfortunately now, we've been in Galus more than 1900 years. And in the times of the Alter Rebbe, it was more than 1700 years. So the Alter Rebbe's question here, I'm skipping over here to the middle of the paragraph. He says, the destruction of the second Beis HaMikdash was only for the sin of Beis hatred. Why now is Galus so long? The Beis HaMikdash is destroyed more than 1700 years. The Galus Bavel, and the Galus Bavel, which is because of these terrible Averas, it was only for 70 years. It doesn't seem to make any sense. Similarly, it's bad, it's not good, like the Maharsha said, but it's so terrible, it's worse than everything else? That's the Alter Rebbe's question. So, to understand the Alter Rebbe's answer, I think we have to understand that a general idea about Galus. So in the simple sense, what is Galus? Galus is a punishment, right? We weren't good boys, so Hashem is sending us into Galus as a punishment. But seemingly that doesn't make a lot of sense. How could it be the Jews, our forefathers, let's say they sinned during the time of the second Beis HaMikdash for 420 years, so their descendants should be in Galus for 1900 years to atone for their sins? There's no way to atone for it quicker? Doesn't seem to make any sense. So Chassidus explained that Galus, it's not a punishment. Galus is a rectification process. It's a process how to fix the cause of Galus. So what the Alter Rebbe is going to explain here is why Sinas Chinam. Why is Sinas Chinam a cause for Galus? Why is it a cause for Galus? So in general, he's going to start with why were the Averis of Avodah Zarah, Gili Aroyas, Shvichas Damim, why were they a cause for Galus? So what Alter Rebbe will explain that in a certain sense it's easier to fix those Averis than to fix Sinas Chinam. So in general, what is the cause of any Avera? What's the cause of it? Why do people do Averis? Why do people sin? So once again, it's only a symptom. It's a symptom. People have midas rois. They have negative emotions. They have negative character traits, and they have undesirable desires, so to say, and that's what causes them to sin. So the Alter Rebbe explains here that these different midas rois, they correspond and they come from the 7 nations that inhabited Eretz Yisrael. So the reason why the Jewish people during the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, the reason why they succumbed to all those sins was because they didn't drive out those other nations. Because they didn't drive out those other nations, they were influenced by them. They were influenced by these Sheva Midas Rois, by these 7 negative emotions. And that's what caused them to do these Averas. He says like this, the idea is like this. The The 7 nations that were there when our forefathers entered Eretz Yisrael. Hakanani, V'achiti, V'chulei Nemar. What does it say? V'hoya asher toisiru mehem. It says whoever is going to remain, etc. It says it's going to be a negative influence. Why? Ki heim sheva midas harois. They correspond to the 7 negative emotions. L'chein kishachatu Yisrael azba bayis rishain. When the Jewish people sinned, then in the time of the first Beis Hamikdash, the first temple, midas gabru bahem hasheva midas harois, and the 7 emotions, they overcame them. Why? It's because they left them over. They didn't eradicate the nations. And he brings the source. So skipping a couple lines. It's because of these nations. That's why they succumb to these sins. So now you explain that's exactly why Galus Bavel, the Babylonian exile, was 70 years. Why 70 exactly? The 70 years, that was how long the rectification process took. Every midah took 10 years. Why? There was a concept in Chassidus that every single one of the 7 emotions has 10 parts, right? The other 10 koyches and the other 10 soul powers. So every year was another aspect of one of the Sheva Midas Rois. That's why it took 70 years. It was a 70-year rectification process to fix the cause of the Averis, which was the Sheva Midas Rois. Now, what about that? That was Bayis Rishon. That was the first Beis Hamikdash. Okay. What happened Bayis Sheni? Says Bayis Sheni was a different klipa altogether. It was a different cause for their sins. There's a different sin. It says in Bayis Sheni, the sin wasn't the midas rois themselves. That's not what it was. Kiyim b'sinas chinam. What was it? It was sinas chinam, baseless hatred. Now, Stephen, what's so bad about baseless hatred? It's an aveira. It says anywhere. Now, I think hatred maybe is a very strong word in English. But sinas chinam means disliking another person. You don't get along with someone else. What is that? What's so terrible about that? What's so terrible? So he says this is not one of the 7. This doesn't correspond to any one of the 7 nations. It's a different nation. Which nation is this? Vehi klipas Midian. This is the klipa of Midian. She'ena nechsheves mishiva amam in hanal. It's not one of those 7 nations. Ve'inei ra'gomo k'mitayos rois chulu v'neniuf. Right? It's not something that's actually terrible. It's actually totally negative. It's not a bad desire. It's not idolatry, it's not adultery or anything like that. Kiyim sinas chinam. It's sinas chinam. What is it? What's the problem? Shezehu loshin midyan rivu badain. The problem is it's quarreling, it's fighting. And what's so bad about that? It says ubidazu avo pisheina ragamo. This midah, although it's not totally bad, achu moker esavus hara. It's the source of evil. What does that mean exactly? The Alter Rebbe is very short over here. He says it's moker esavus hara. So elsewhere in Chassidus, it explains at greater length as follows. Well, what's sinas chinam about? Why don't people get along? Why don't people get along? Why don't people dislike each other? So now there's a concept of sina in Torah. There's a concept that says if a person sins under certain circumstances, if it's a person who knows better and is someone that you told off already, and he knows it's the right thing, so there's a concept you can dislike him. Okay, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, you still have to like him, you still have to love him. At the same time, you have a right to dislike him because he sinned and he knew better. There's such a concept. No one say that's not sinas chinam. Sinas chinam means you dislike him just because you don't like the person. Could be you come up with reasons. He's like this, he's like that. All these things. So why is it that you don't like him? The answer is, it comes from what Chassidus calls yeshus. It means ego, feeling of self. The person, he doesn't rub well with you. He doesn't connect with you so well. That's called sinas chinam. Sinas chinam, you don't like him just for no particular reason. So says the Alter Rebbe over here, it's not an aveira. It's not necessarily as terrible as all these other things like adultery or anything like that. But the feeling of Yeshus, this feeling of self, that's the source for doing anything against Hashem. Why does anyone do anything against Hashem? Why does anyone follow all the negative desires? Because they have a feeling of self-importance, their own ego. That's what it is. So, says the Alter Rebbe, not only is this negative, that this is the opposite of holiness. It's the opposite of godliness. Why is it the opposite of godliness? Because what is Kedusha all about? Kedusha is the concept of unity, inclusiveness. This is the sword, this is the basis of the entire Torah. Like Hillel said, that which is hateful to you, don't do to someone else. And the rest is just an explanation. Why is that? Why? Because Hashem is one God. He is a God that includes everything. Says Him and all His soul powers are all one. He is the knowledge, He is the thing that's known. So the Alter Rebbe explains. He explains that when we say that Hashem is echad, when Hashem is one, what does that mean exactly? Hashem is one. So it doesn't only mean that there's no other God, right? And it doesn't only mean that He is the one and unique and there's nothing else like Him. The way the Alter Rebbe explains here, echad means that He's all-inclusive. Pirush echad, what does echad mean? It doesn't mean the essence of Hashem, who's the one and unique. When we say He's one, it means He's one. The Ches and the Dalet is the 7 heavens and the earth, the 4 directions. Ulamaila, what does that mean spiritually? This is the 7 midos. These are all included in the oneness of Hashem. So in other words, Kedusha is all about the oneness of Hashem that includes everything. There's nothing that Hashem can't tolerate, so to say. So, therefore the concept of divisiveness, the concept of quarreling with someone else, that you can't stand the other person, this opposes the name of Hashem, who is one. Which Hashem, for Hashem, even all the opposing midas, they're all unified. They're all nullified in the light of Hashem. Hashem can tolerate everything, so to say. Okay, so now we understand what's so terrible about Sinas Chinam. Why is Sinas Chinam a cause for Galus? Because this is what opposes Achdus Hashem, the unity of Hashem. And now the Alter Rebbe is going to explain, this explains also why this Galus is much longer, as we'll see. Therefore, this rectification process, to fix up Sinas Chinam, this takes much longer. So why? Why does Sinas Chinam, to fix up this issue of divisiveness, why does it take so much longer? The Alter Rebbe will give us 2 explanations. And he'll base this, getting back to the Gemara that we quoted before, that will give us a deeper explanation. What does it mean that Rishonim is Gala, Avonim is Gala Kitzam? We said that, so this is what Chazal say, it's what our sages say, the first ones, meaning, in the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, because their sin was revealed, therefore their end was revealed. So the Alter Rebbe explains what that means. Pirush, what does that mean? This Gala Avoinam, what does it mean? Their sin was revealed. Shahaya Ra'agomor, it means it was open, it was clear, they knew it was bad. Al Kain, also Tshuva Al Zemiyad, they did Tshuva immediately. You know, it's a natural thing when people know something is bad, when it's openly, it's clear, when it's obvious. So people have an easier time doing Tshuva. Because there's nothing to talk about. There's no questions, right? It's clear to them. They know they have a problem. They know that they don't need to be fixed. Bias Rishon, the Jewish people, they knew that they sinned, right? They knew they served Avodah Zarah. They knew that they succumbed to immorality. They knew it, and it was obvious, and they knew the cause. And so they went. They did the rectification process. It took 7 years. That was it. That's why in this Gala Kitzam, Hashem said the end. In other words, He said, this is going to take you 70 years. It's going to take you 70 years. That's how long it takes. Simple. What about the later generations, meaning the second Beis HaMikdash, when it says their sin was not revealed? What does that mean? This is the concept of sinas chinam. And what's the thing about sinas chinam? So first of all, the Alter Rebbe says, people delude themselves. They convince themselves that they're not doing an Aveira. Al Kain learned his Gala Kitzim. Therefore Hashem said, I don't know when the end is. That people don't regret it so much. What did I do? What did I do so bad? And Alter Rebbe brings an example. You see, when it comes to bringing a carbon called an Ashim Tolui, which you bring for an Aveira that you're not sure if you did, you have to pay much more. Why? Says Rabbeinu Yonah, because people don't regret it so much, because maybe I sinned, maybe I didn't sin. So that's number one. That's what number one, sinas chinam, it's more difficult to fix it, because you convince yourself it's not so bad. Reason number one. Reason number two, says the Alter Rebbe, it's another example. In Eretz Yisrael, for example, they have to check everything from bugs, for kashrus. They check rice. Yeah, rice is very difficult to check because the kernels are very small, and it's very hard to find all the little bugs that are there in the rice. It takes a lot of time. So in order to sift out the impurities which are very small, it takes a lot of time. It's more difficult than taking out impurities which are much bigger. So it's noticeable to everybody that it's impure. It's another example. So if you're trying to figure out what's the halacha in the Gemara, but you don't need to figure out. It's not so difficult to figure out that a raven is forbidden to eat and a dove is permissible. That's pretty obvious. What's difficult, you have to figure out what's the halacha when it comes to a law where the law is not so obvious. So then, Torah was my Rav Yosef, Pilpul, Ve'iyun, then you need a lot of time to figure it out. And then you figure out that it's forbidden. It says, the same thing is when it comes to rectifying sinas chinam. Baseless hatred. A person doesn't think it's so bad. Person imagines that the person deserves to be disliked. It takes a long time till you realize that you have this issue. Elsewhere, the Rebbe Rashab, in the famous Maimor Heicholtzu, he expands on this idea. He says a lot of times people, even if they dislike each other for no reason, just like we said, just because of their yeshus, just because they don't click, just because the person doesn't click with you, sometimes people find reasons. They find reasons, they say he's like that, he does this wrong, that wrong, I don't like him for this, for that, and he says that's not the real reason. That's not the real reason. The real reason is because you don't like him. Afterwards you find reasons. So a lot of times, Dr. Rebbe is telling us, it's very difficult to realize that you have this issue. So basically, because of two reasons, Dr. Rebbe is saying it's more difficult to fix sinas chinam. First of all, because you don't think it's so bad. And second of all, even more, sometimes you don't even realize that you have it. So that's why this Galus is much longer. So basically, what do we see over here from the Likutei Torah? I think the Alter Rebbe sheds a whole new light on this whole thing. First of all, the Alter Rebbe explains in general what's wrong with sinas chinam. Why is it so bad? And he says because the whole concept of divisiveness, the whole concept of ego, opposes Achdus Hashem, the oneness of Hashem. That's first of all you see in the Alter Rebbe. Second of all, the Alter Rebbe explains over here this concept of Loinus Gala Kitzam, that we don't know the end. It's not that we don't know the end. Hashem is like, because we're sinning in private, in our hearts, therefore He's not telling us. The point is, since the sinning is happening deep inside of you, it's more difficult for you to figure out that you have this issue, and therefore it's not known when the Galus is going to end. So that's the Alter Rebbe's beer. Very nice, if I may say so myself. So I think, however, we still have more to explain. Okay, so granted, Galus is a rectification process. We're here in Galus, we're fixing sinas chinam. But why do we need to go into Galus in order to go through this rectification process? Why can't we stay in Eretz Yisrael with the Beis HaMikdash and have all Gili Elikus, revelation of godliness? If anything, that will make it easier for us to fix up our problems. Right? Seemingly Hashem is making it more difficult for us. He's sending us into Galus. And now it's going to be more difficult to fix up our sinas chinam. So how by sending us into Galus, how is that helpful in our rectification process? So on a very basic level, you'd say it's not really such a question. It's like a child who's misbehaving. When the child misbehaves, you send them away from the table. You send them out of the classroom. The table, the classroom is not a place for the child who's misbehaving. So if we have sinas chinam, so we're not kalim, so to say, we can't receive the hashras hashchina, the shchina can't rest, it's not a place of kedusha, of holiness, so we have to leave. There can't be a Beis HaMikdash, we can't be in Eretz Yisrael, we have to leave. But the Rebbe is going to explain over here, we'll see in the Sikha over here, that it's much more than that. It's a concept the Rebbe said again and again and again, that every Yeridah is l'tzarech aliyah, every descent is for the sake of an ascent. It has to be that by going into Galus, this is actually helping us rectify the issue. Can't just be a technical thing. Oh, we have to be in Galus, so just fix it up. Do the best you can while you're in Galus. Being in Galus has to help us fix the problem. Okay, so the Rebbe says like this. So in general, the concept of Galus is it's a time when not only does it impair, the main thing of Galus is the fact that it impairs our relationship with Hashem. And during Galus, it's not a time of Gili Elikus, not a time of godly revelation. So the Rebbe says over here that the Klolos Inyan HaGalus, the concept of Galus, Hu Tzarech Aliyah, it's for the purpose of an ascent. In order to arouse the heart to open the ways of tshuva. This arouses to being in Galus the deeper connection, the deeper unity between Hashem and the Jewish people. The deep love that exists, that Hashem loves Bnei Yisrael HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the Jewish people love Hashem, beyond all limitation. Just to give an example. So, take the example of the child, right? The child who's exiled, who's, so to say, exiled from his father's table. So now you see a very interesting thing. Children who behave, children who are nice, who are good children, it's not always apparent the special connection that they have with their parents. Chassidus says the connection that children have with their parents is a very deep connection. It's a connection that's beyond all understanding. It's an essential bond. It's something you can't explain. So now there's a very interesting thing. When a child behaves, so you don't see that connection. You don't see that connection. Why? Because when the child's behaving, when the child's a good boy and he's doing everything he's supposed to, everybody loves the child. There's so many reasons to like him. You don't have to be the child's father or mother to love the child. He's such a good boy. She's such a good girl. Of course you love them. Now, of course, the parents love the child not only because of the child's great qualities and because it's such a good boy or girl. But you don't see it because, so to say, the good qualities, the reason, so to say, cover over the essential bond. When do you see the essential bond? When the child misbehaves. When the child misbehaves and the child is sent away from the table, the child is sent out of the classroom. And nevertheless, the father or the mother is willing to give the child another chance. And the child also is not only willing, but he wants to come back and he wants to reconnect. And it bothers him the fact that he's not with his parents. Then you see that deep connection. Because why is the child bothered? Why does he care that he's not in his father's table? What does it bother him? The answer is because he's his father's child. That's his identity. That's who he is. So what follows? When do you see the deep connection? Only when the child leaves the father's table. So the Rebbe says over here that as long as the Jewish people are still on their father's table, so then you don't see the deep connection. When the Jewish people go into Galus, however, and now we sin, and nevertheless we do tshuva, and we come back, and that shows that our connection with Hashem is beyond all limitations. That even though we're in Galus, and even though Hashem is, so to say, sent us away from His table, we want to come back. So Galus actually is an opportunity for us to bring out a deeper connection with Hashem. And the Rebbe says over here that just the same thing applies also to the connection between Jews and each other. We know that in general, I'm just paraphrasing it. We know that in general, so the connection between Jews and each other is related to the connection that the Jews have with Hashem. Your relationship between Adam lachaveroi has between you and your friend, that has also an effect on your relationship between Adam between you and Hashem. So when the Jewish people, we have Achdus Yisrael, when we have Achdus, when we have unity, so that between each other, that's what creates Achdus with Hashem. So this explains, says the Rebbe, this explains, first of all, why Sinas Chinam was the reason why we went into Galus. If we don't have Achdus between each other, if we don't have unity between each other, so then we can't have a proper unity openly and revealed with Hashem. Because the unity of the Jewish people is connected with the unity of Hashem. So that's on the surface. Right on the surface, if we don't have unity, so we have to go into Galus. We can't have unity with Hashem. However, in a deeper level, we know Yerida L'Tzarech Aliyah, the descent was for the sake of an ascent. So says the Rebbe, the only way to reach true Achdus, Emes Achdus, is only through being in Galus. Only when we have the challenge of Galus. What's the challenge of Galus? The Jews are so spread out. And there's a Jew on the, as the Rebbe quotes over here, says, Echad mikem Geula LeBarbaria, Echad Geula LeSamatria. One of you is exiled to Barbaria, one to Samatria, and nevertheless, it's nevertheless, there's nothing that stops the love between one Jew and another. Even a Jew that's on the other side of the earth that you never saw him. In other words, when we have the challenge of Galus, which is seemingly the greatest challenge to the unity of the Jewish people, and nevertheless, we still have Achdus Yisrael, nevertheless, there's still unity between the Jewish people, so that brings out that the unity of the Jewish people is beyond all limitation. That we're one, and not because we like each other, not because we know each other, but because we are one, because we're all Jews. So in other words, what comes out from the Sikha, the Rebbe is saying over here, in this Sikha, Shabbos Parshas Vayigash, Tavshin Memtes, that by being in Galus, that's actually the only way to rectify Sinas Chinam. The only way to fix Sinas Chinam is by having the challenge of Galus, by having that challenge of being so separate and so divided, and nevertheless we're still connected. That's how we rectify the issue of Sinas Chinam. So now to add just a couple more points. So now, practically speaking, we'll take questions at the end. Practically speaking, so we talk about how do we rectify Sinas Chinam. So this is a letter over here from the Rebbe from Rosh Chodesh Elul Tavshin Yud Aleph, 1951, first day of Elul. Something the Rebbe said so many times that the way to rectify Sinas Chinam is to Avas Chinam. What does that mean, Avas Chinam? Literally baseless love. So the Rebbe says, if you want to fix, you have an issue of baseless hatred. That means you don't dislike them because you dislike them. Then how do you fix that? By loving them just because they're Jews, even if you don't have a reason. That's the concept of Sinas Chinam. How do you fix it? So he says, the Rambam says, you want to fix something, you have to take the opposite extreme, which is loving the person without any reason. He says, even if you can't find any reason to love the person. Nevertheless, you still love him. You love him and you love him till you don't see his problems. And that's how we're going to fix Galus. So in other words, the way to fix disliking a person without reason just because I don't like him is just to love him just because, even if there's no reason. In the Sikha of Yud Aleph Nisan Tavshem and Beis, Rebbe added another point that it comes out that when we replace Sinas Chinam with Avas Chinam, then we have the added advantage of Yisroin Ha'orim and HaChoshech. You see the advantage of light over darkness. In other words, the Rebbe is saying it's not just we're getting back to square one, but the only way you can really reach Avas Chinam is through having Sinas Chinam first, so to say. In other words, only through having the challenge of disliking the other person, that's how you have the opportunity to arouse in yourself that ability to love the person without any reason. Okay. So these are concepts that the Rebbe spoke about again and again and again throughout the Rebbe's leadership, throughout the Rebbe's Nesias. Now in this last quote over here in the Rebbe's Sikha, from Matas Masei Tafshin and Aleph in 1991, the Rebbe says an amazing thing over here. The Rebbe says that now, because we are already holding at the end of Galus, the reason why we have to have Achdas Yisrael now is not only to fix up Sinas Chinam. It's not only to fix up the baseless hatred. Now the Rebbe says now it's a preparation for the Geula. How is it a preparation for the Geula? It says when the Geula will come, says then there's going to be a tremendous unity between the Jewish people. Why? Because what's the Yechidah Shebenefesh is going to be revealed. What's Yechidah Shebenefesh, just in short? Yechidah Shebenefesh is the essence of the soul, the essence of your identity. So Chassidus says, how is it really possible to have Avas Yisrael? How is it really, this is really the key. How is it possible to have Avas Chinam, to love the person for no reason? Chassidus says it's because in our essence we are one. We aren't different people. Ve'ahavta lir'acha kemוך, love the other person like yourself because he is you. Because there's a level of our identity, the essence of our identity, where we are all one. Now, before Mashiach, we can't truly experience this. We can't truly experience this. This is the level of Yechidah Shebenefesh, the essence of our souls. When Mashiach will come, we'll experience this, and automatically we'll have unity because we'll realize that we are one. Now, says the Rebbe, the Achdus that we have to have, the unity that we have to have, is a preparation for that Achdus, for that unity that's going to be when Mashiach comes. Unbelievable. You know, I'll tell you something, that sometimes when the Rebbe says things like this, that we've already fixed Sinas Chinam and we're already Achdus as a preparation for the Geula, sometimes we look around, you look into yourself, you project it on others, and you say that where is it fixed? Where do we see that we fixed up Sinas Chinam? And I think in the events in the last couple of weeks with Shalom Mordechai Rabashkin, I think we saw an openly clear demonstration of this, of the achdus that there is between Jews, that people that we thought there was so much, they had so much not in common, and there was so much divisiveness and strife between them. They all came together and they all celebrated the Geula of an individual who was a regular individual, and nevertheless there was an unbelievable simcha, unbelievable joy and achdus between the Jewish people. And just to conclude, I think this what the Rebbe says over here, I think you can see this in the Medrash Tanchuma. It says over here that going to the end, he says, it says you find that the Jewish people will not be redeemed till they become one bundle, one unit. And it says that when that's going to happen, it says then kishehem agudim mekablim pnei shechina. So I think you see a very interesting thing in this medrash. The medrash doesn't mention anything about fixing up sinas chinam. It doesn't mention anything about issues. It says one point that in order that the hachana, the preparation for Mashiach of the Jewish people, they need to be an aguda achas. We need to be one bundle. We need to be one unit. And I think that's reflective of the achdus of Yechidah Shebenefesh, of the essence of the soul. So basically, to conclude, put everything together. So what do we see over here? So we started off seeing the cause of Galus, which was sinas chinam, baseless hatred. And because of that, the Gemara says that latest Gala Kitzam, we don't know what the end of Galus. And as the Alter Rebbe explained, how sinas chinam, the concept of divisiveness, is the opposite of achdos Hashem, the unity of Hashem. And since it's so subtle, and since people have a hard time convincing themselves that there's something wrong, it's more difficult to fix, and therefore that's why we're in Galus for so long. And then we see even more, the Rebbe says it's specifically through having the challenge of Galus, the challenge of being unity. That's what brings out the greatest unity among the Jewish people that defies all limitations. And the way to do that, the way is through avas chinam, through loving a person with no reason. And this leads us to what the Rebbe said in Tafshin and Aleph in 1991, that not only have we already fixed not only have we corrected the sinas chinam, but now the achdus is already a preparation for the ultimate achdus that we're going to experience in the time of Moshiach. So Be'ezus Hashem, over here next week, we're going to have a shiur about tshuva. What is the shiur? So stay tuned. We're going to have Be'ezus Hashem, Rabbi Menachem Shechter. He's going to tell us about what is the tshuva that's necessary before the Geula. So it's about time for Ma'ariv, but just if anyone has any questions. If anyone has any questions, yes.
Bottom of page 3 talks about that the Ava between the first Baruch and Israel helps against sinas chinam. So is that because we're learning just as he's Machol Godo to have Rachamim on Israel, we should have mercy on each other?
So again, you say what's your question? Say your question. It says that the achdus between.
It's talking about the achdus coming from the Galus itself. But is that because we're learning from the derech of the first Baruch to be Machol on Israel?
You're asking is the reason why the achdus between the Jewish people connected to the achdus between Jews because we're learning from Hashem, That's a possible explanation. But I think it's deeper than that. I think it's because the unity between the Jewish people, the cause of that, the root of that is the fact that we all have a neshama, we all have a soul which is connected to Hashem. And because Hashem is one, therefore we're all connected as one. Does that answer your question?
But how does that make the reader of the Galus into
The descent of, you're asking how does the descent of Galus bring the Aliyah? The descent of Galus is the challenge. The challenge is our unity. The challenge is our unity with Hashem. The challenge is our unity between each other. And the only way to overcome that challenge is by revealing and bringing out the unity that we have between each other and Hashem that is beyond any limitations. In other words, it's the challenge that brings out the deeper, the inner recesses of your soul, so to say, right? The deeper qualities, the deeper powers that you have, and the deeper connection that we have with us and Hashem in between us and the Jewish people and other Jews.
So, in other words, awareness of the consequences of Galus makes us not want to have Galus.
Basically, yeah, experiencing Galus, yeah. In other words, experiencing Galus, that's what it forces us to draw out deeper quality. Otherwise, you can't make it in Galus. Yeah, and the main thing is that we should be zoichet to the Geula, Amidas Vashlema, the ultimate Geula, take it from Yad Mamish immediately.